All right, so it is 11 o'clock in our time zone, and we have our speaker on the phone. We had some technical difficulties, but resolved them right in time. And so today we have Mike Tyler of Voyager Study Abroad. And the company is special for several reasons. One, the company has participated in X-Culture before, and I believe actually twice. Two, the product of the company is aimed at students. So every single X-Culture participant can not only potentially be a business advisor, but also a customer, or at least, is in the demographic segment of the target population of the company. So if for any, or for most other companies, you may not quite understand or know the customers, for the Voyager Study Abroad, the customers probably think exactly the way you think, the X-Culture students. And so that puts you in a very unique position to know something about the business that maybe even the owner of the business doesn't know, given this difference in the role and the age. And so the way it will go today is, as usual, we will give the presenter, Mike Tyler, Dr. Mike Tyler, a few minutes to talk about his company, talk about the product, the history, the general information that you need to have in order to be able to solve the challenge. Then we already have a number of questions that arrived by email, and I see probably more will be coming in the next as the webinar progresses. So we will ask those questions. And I also have prepared a few questions along the lines of the challenge, so that you have a little bit more information on each of the questions of the challenge. So without any further ado, I give you Dr. Mike Tyler, and we'll go to the questions later.
Okay, perfect. So first, I want to tell you that if you ever have any questions at all, you can email me or call me, and I'll be very responsive to you. I'm a professor, and I love dealing with students, and that's one of the reasons I started this company, Voyager Study Abroad. This summer will be our 4th year of the program, and we've been very fortunate to work with X-Culture the past 2 years. We are a study abroad program unlike any other study abroad program. There are many different companies that claim to do the things that we actually do. We are what's considered a multi-country study abroad. We go to 6 different countries, and we go to 12 different cities during the summer 30-day period. We're pretty much experts at doing that. I actually worked for 2 other multi-country study abroad programs before deciding to start Voyager Study Abroad. And I actually decided to start it because I thought that the other programs were not doing some of the things that they could do to optimize the experience for the students. So the first thing, we're first class. We stay in highly rated center city hotels. They're all TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence winners. They're all accessible to public transportation. And because they're in the heart of the city, they're close to the activities that we do during the program. We're the only traveling program that uses a hub city. What I mean by that is we have, for the entire 30 days, the students have a residence in Madrid. They never need to check out. It's single occupancy with a private bath. It has a fitness facility on site. It has a swimming pool. It's actually beautiful. It's a patio deck on the rooftop of the residence. There's an on-site laundry. And every few days, we're a traveling program, so over 50% of the program is spent in the 6 countries and 12 cities that we visit. But every few days, we go back to Madrid. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, it makes the experience better for the students. You don't need to carry all your luggage with you, all your bags from city to city. You only take what you need. And also, we offer our classes all in Madrid at our sponsor university. And so every few days we go back, we have classes for a couple days. We talk about where we're going and what we did. And then we hit the road again. All our transportation, and this is also unique to us, is by plane. We're high-speed trained. Every other multi-country program that I know of uses buses and coaches, which in Europe is a very time-consuming process because every 2 or 3 hours they have to stop at a rest area for 20 or 30 minutes. So a lot of the students' time in Europe and other multi-country programs is spent in travel. I think the most unique thing about Voyager Study Abroad and our Voyager Europe program is that we offer classes that are related to the cities that we visit. you know, a lot of programs offer 100 or 200 classes while they do their study abroad. We offer 7 classes. All the classes are related to the cities that are visited. And in every class, we integrate multiple activities, either professional or cultural activities. And I firmly believe that our classes actually enrich our program. So it's not a chore that the students have a good time and, oh my God, then they have to go to class, then they have a good time, oh my God, then they have to go to class, because the classes are integrated into each of the program activities, and each of the program activities are integrated into the class. We do way more activities than any other study abroad program. We usually do more than one activity each day. We do things like Spanish cooking classes and tapas tastings and wine tastings. We also go to a lot of international organizations and have presentations. We go to some of the biggest corporations in Europe, and they actually have been nice enough to put on, you know, multi-hour presentations to us. They normally give us breakfast for lunch. They're super nice and they're thrilled to have us. So that's the upside of the program. The downside of the program is, and I lost $200,000 doing this the first year. I just finished my 2016 taxes and I lost $15,000 in 2016. And for 2017, even though I had many less students than I did in 2016, I just lost a small amount, like $5,000. So each year is getting a little better from a financial point of view, which is a good thing, because my wife is breathing down my neck, because if you can see, I'm an old man and she thinks it's a lot for me. And I do it out of love and not necessarily to make money. To me, the most important thing is having the optimal experience, and I haven't been able to do that. What I'm looking for from you is I'd like you to be able to tell me how I can recruit students better. Every student that's gone on the program is willing to talk to other students, and every one of them, I believe, would attest to the fact that they had a life-changing experience. We actually don't spare anything in making sure that it's the best possible experience for the students. So I think in that way, it's also unlike any other program. So pretty much I'm always on a short rope with my wife. I mean, literally, I probably spend 1,000 hours a year setting things up and trying to make this thing work. And, you know, being multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt as a result of those efforts. Plus, I give up my summer teaching. I'm actually a professor. I give up my summer teaching at my university, but it's kind of like out of love that I do this. But I do want to make it work and at least be viable. I'm not really concerned with making a ton of money at doing it, but breaking even would be a really good thing at some point. And I've gotten, before I go, I've gotten great recommendations from the people at X-Culture. The reports have been amazing, and I integrate them as much as I possibly can. And if you go to the website of the company right now, it's not going to be the current website. Well, it's updated, but I'm having a problem with GoDaddy doing the transfer. I was trying to get it up and finished for you today so you could see the latest website, but I would imagine in the next day or two, the new website will be up. And you'll see that we go to great places and we do great things. And I mean, the activities that we do, I think, are second to none. I don't even think anybody's close. So that's where we're at.
All right. So a few questions about the general product and program. How does it work with the course credits? So you do offer a number of courses. You said 7 courses during that month. And so are they recognized by the universities automatically by all universities, or only some? How many credit hours? How does it work with, I assume that's an important component of the program for the student.
That's actually a terrific question. Not all universities will accept our credits and transfer, but most of them will. We're considered a third party. We're an independent study abroad provider, and most universities will accept the credit. They won't graciously accept the credit. They would prefer, obviously, that you take a study abroad program that's offered by them. They'd like to keep the revenues in-house. But the way it works is that I'm actually sponsored by the Endicott International, the College of International Studies in Madrid, and we have a great relationship with them. We teach all our classes there. We use one of their professors. They give the students IDs the first day. They give them access to their computer lab, and they give them access to their library and you know, copy machines and everything. It's really, and it's 2 blocks away from the residence, so you can walk there and walk back and walk there. The transcripts for our program come from Endicott College, which is in Beverly, Massachusetts, and they're accredited by the New England Association of Colleges and Schools, which is the same accrediting body that accredits Harvard and some of the other top institutions, and they issue the transcripts. So most schools will accept the transfer credit, and we will work with whatever applicant or student that wants to go on our program to try to make it happen. There are, I would say, less than 25% of schools just don't accept any outside study abroad programs, but the overwhelming percentage do.
And then in terms of the courses, are those typical 3 credit hour college courses? And what would be the subjects? Or it's a little different in terms of the number of credits the student get for them?
All our courses are 3 credit courses. They all have a minimum of 45 academic contact hours, which is a technical thing that Voss will understand, but not necessarily all of you will understand. But in order for our classes to be accredited and in order for our sponsor to offer the transcripts, we have to meet the criteria of the accrediting body. But included in the 45 contact hours of a course, let me give you an example of a course, or a couple courses. We have a course called New Europe. And in that course, we go to the European Commission in Brussels. We go to the Office of Economic Cooperation and Development in Paris. And we go to several other international organizations. We have multi-hour seminars that are given to us by those organizations. Those count as contact hours, and they're integrated into our courses. We have a course called, excuse me, Art and Society. And in that course, you go to maybe 10 or 12 of the top 15 art museums in the world. So that would also, we have, when we go to the art museums, we have, tour guides that explain the different paintings and the different artworks, and then those are also integrated back into the classes. So they're 3 credit hour classes. If you can take those classes, and I mean, Voss, going back to your question, there's 2 things for credit sharing. So the first is, will the school accept the outside credit? Mm-hmm. And most schools will. But then from the student's perspective, they have to be able to take one of those 7 courses. They have to fit into the student's academic program. So you need to see an academic advisor, and you need to usually see the study abroad advisor. Most study abroad programs offer things like, physics and mathematics. And, I'm an accounting professor, and I could teach an accounting class, but I don't, because I don't see any value added by taking an accounting class in Europe. I only want to offer classes that are enhanced by the European experience, and where we could actually have, this experiential learning process take place. And this is going to be the 4th year. I could tell you that the previous 3 years, that part of the program has been incredible.
It does make sense to offer courses that have something to do with the international or travel. And to my knowledge, at least at my school, I know that students do have some freedom as to what courses they choose. And so there are obviously some courses that they must take, but then they have some credit hours that they can allocate to just about anything. And so some students would even take classes like golf or swimming, and you still can even do that. You have some room for that. So I assume if you can take some courses on European art or European history or politics, it definitely would fit, and possibly even will fit with your core requirements, not only with your optional courses.
Exactly.
So I would like to talk a little bit more about each of the challenge questions. And so the first one is, it's a block of questions related to the market analysis. And so first of all, your position in the sector, in the industry, your competitors, and your strengths and weaknesses compared to the competition. We did talk about the unique features of the Voyager Study Abroad program, but who would be then your main competitors? Are those universities themselves or other companies? How does it work with the competition?
Well, I'd start out and say we have no competition at all, but that would be a lie. We have competitors coming from all over the place. I think our biggest competitor is the university programs, and that's because the first thing a student does when they're interested in studying abroad is they go see their study abroad advisor. And not only will the study abroad advisor typically not recommend an independent program, but they will discourage the students from going on an independent program. So that's a huge disadvantage we have. Our main competitors for students that are interested in programs like we offer are the multi-country study abroad programs. Our advantage is, and we charge more money than most university programs that go to one city and have a limited number of activities and don't stay in such high quality and high quality lodgings. We charge less than the other multi-country programs. So the programs that are direct competitors to us, we're charging a couple $1,000s less than they charge, and we really do offer much more. And I think, I didn't even mention, but our itinerary is much better. Where the cities and the countries that we go to are the most desirable cities and countries to go to in Europe, and we have the expertise of going there. But I think the difficult thing is a new company. I mean, when I say I've lost almost $200,000 altogether, that money is mostly spent on advertising because I need to have us visible, because no study abroad office is going to be referring us. So there are study abroad referral websites, and I'm competing with very big companies that are also independent companies, not necessarily offering multi-country programs, but might offer 20 different study abroad programs. And it costs them the same thing to advertise their 20 programs as it costs me to advertise my one little summer program. Now, I have to say I've gotten smarter in the last couple years, a lot of it because of X-Culture student recommendations. But now I'm only advertising with them a few months a year. Before, they would make me take an entire year advertisement, which was doing me absolutely no good at all for 6 or 9 months of the period they were charging me for, but they insisted on it. And I guess I started to have to play hardball with them, and now they let me advertise for shorter periods of time, which is one of the reasons that I didn't lose as much money in 2017 as I had in 2016 and 2015. Even though I actually had less students last year, I had about half the students last year as I had the year before. So.
And then, so who are your customers? I mean, I understand those as students, but are they required to do a study abroad course or program, and that's why they have to choose somebody like your company? Or are they just interested and intrinsically motivated to do it and they choose to do it? Or there are other reasons to become a customer?
This year, in 2017, most of my students came actually from word of mouth, and they were students at the same universities as the students that went the year before. I also have been lucky to have students that have liked my program so much, they've come back multiple times. I've had 2 students that have come on my program 2 of the 3 years, and I've actually had 1 student that's come on the program all 3 years of my program, which is...
Are they doing that for fun, or is it some like a requirement?
The one that's been on 3 years came for fun this year. The prior 2 years, she came for the credit. And I gave her a discount, and she was an intern, and she helped a lot. I mean, she knew the ropes. The other 2 students actually came for credit. They came twice and took different classes. But that doesn't work. I mean, I need to be able to, and one of the things I'm doing this year is I'm trying to target market from schools that I've had students attend. And the reason for that is that I know that the study abroad office is familiar with us. They've had some of their students attend before. They probably won't work as hard not to have their students come, because at least they're somewhat familiar. And I also know that the students that have attended before, and they've all been great, will get on the phone and call students and tell them the experience they had, which is, that's unbeatable. That's more important than anything else. I mean, I could call and tell them how great the program is, but that doesn't mean as much as of one of their peers at their own school call. So we are target marketing to all the schools. We're actually doing Facebook advertising to all the schools that we've had students attend before. But we need to expand on that too, because, I mean, let me give you the numbers. The first year I did it, I had 3 students. That's why I lost so much money. I still ran the program, even though I knew it was going to be a huge loss, because I didn't think it was fair for the students to think they're going and then cancel it and have them wonder where they're going to go. Now, that you might think would have been a bad experience for them, but 2 of those 3 students came back again the next year. That's how good of it.
Smaller class size, group size, I guess, actually makes
Yeah. I mean, but there's positives and negatives. I mean, you want to go and you want to meet people, and we've also been fortunate. We've had a pretty good diversity of people from different countries and different schools, and they've all become best friends, which I think is amazing. The second year I had 15, And I thought, okay, the third year I'm growing from 15, so now I'll have 20 or 30, and that's kind of where I need to be. And then last year I only ended up with 9, which was pretty tough. But because I didn't spend as much money on yearly advertising, I didn't spend any on yearly advertising. I spent less money on advertising because I only advertised for 3 or 4 months. Then I didn't lose as much money. I mean, if you want me to go into the finances, which might be helpful to them, my cost is about $7,500 per student. That's the cost.
Does that depend on the number of people in the group?
No, that's my variable cost. My variable cost that's for the hotels, the transportation. I mean, I didn't even mention, but we provide way more meals than everybody else. When we're in Madrid, we provide breakfast and an amazing lunch or dinner. When we travel, we always provide just breakfast, but everything else is included, all the intercity transportation. Some of the multi-country programs actually charge for the transportation when you're there, which I find to be amazing, but they do that. So they charge $2,000 or $3,000 more than us. And then when the student gets there, they're spending tons of money. We don't do that. We try to make everything everything is included. We have everything up front, everybody knows. Okay, so my cost per student is about $7,500. My fixed costs that are not per student are pretty high because I have 2 professors that travel with the program. Both of them have considerable study abroad experience. I travel with the program as well, and I have 10 years of study abroad experience and 25 years as a professor, and I love students, and most of the students, I think, this sounds asinine, but I'm probably the biggest asset of the program because all the students become like my children. I speak to them on a regular basis, and not one of them do I not stay in regular touch with. So I think that is an important thing. But those are fixed costs. I have to pay the university in Madrid. They've been great to me. They don't charge me as much as they could, but they're issuing IDs. They're giving the students access to the school. They're giving me 2 classrooms for the entire day when we're in Madrid. So I have to pay them. So those are fixed costs. So the fixed costs have been in the neighborhood of $50,000. So just quick numbers. I'm an accounting professor. I have to do this. If I charge $9,500, my cost per student is $7,500, then my margin is $2,000. If I get 25 students, 2,000 times 25, I cover what my fixed costs have been, which is $50,000. But I haven't gotten 25 students. So that's what my predicament is. I'm not really, I'll say this probably 5 times during this presentation, this interaction, but I'm not trying to get rich at doing it. I'm trying to run the best study abroad program that's out there. I mean, at some point I'd like to expand, and like right now we're offering Voyager Europe. I'd like to offer Voyager Europe, but multiple, groupings of cities, sometimes going to like the Iberian Peninsula, sometimes going to Northern Europe. I'd like to do a program in Eastern Europe. I've even owned the domain name Voyager China, which is something I've considered doing. But I have to make the one program a success using the model that I think is distinctive but expensive before I can do anything else.
Yeah. And talking about the markets, at this time you're focusing on Europe, and in terms of your clients, students, they all primarily come from the United States, or you have also participants from other countries? And are you open to the participants from other countries?
Yeah, I'd love to have participants from other countries, and I've spent a lot of money advertising in the countries that send a lot of students on study abroad. The obvious ones are Canada and Mexico, and I've spent a lot of money there. I've spent money advertising in South America. I spent money advertising in the Middle East and Africa. The only market that's really not a particularly good market is Europe because, of course,
they are there, right.
And they have access. I've had students, mostly, every year I've had at least 3 or 4 students from the Caribbean, from different places in the Caribbean. The young lady that's gone with me 3 times is actually from the Philippines, and so I've had that diversity. And because we stay in the residence in Madrid, it's great for the students because that's actually a very upscale student residence where they have students from also all over the world that are attending different universities in Madrid. It's in a university neighborhood. It's probably in the best neighborhood in Madrid. And that's an amazing, the students actually, it's the weirdest thing. We could be in their favorite city. We could be in Florence or Barcelona, and they still can't wait to get back to the residence because the meals are so good. And we call it a home away from home because it becomes the home away from home for the students. So.
Yeah. The second block of questions deals with marketing. And so I'd like to ask a few questions in terms of your personal assessment, and maybe students will come up with some other solutions. But decision makers, promotion channels, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the marketing itself. So the decision makers in this industry, are the students those who are making the decisions, or are those parents of the students, or somebody else?
Yes, the biggest ones are the student and the parent, but my biggest hurdle has been the study abroad office, because when the student goes there, no matter how excited they are about going on the program, they do anything, they say whatever they can say or whatever they can think of to try to dissuade the student from going on the program. And we do reach out to the study abroad offices, and we make every effort to at least blunt their resistance to our program. But sometimes it's a dollar and cents issue to the universities, that they want to keep all the revenue in-house. And so so to me, the big three are the student first. If the student is enthusiastic, I will tell you that my experience 2 years ago and last year is anytime I have an opportunity to talk to a parent, that student goes on the program. I think I have 100% success rate when I've actually been able to talk to the parent. But that's not, that doesn't happen that often. If it happened more often, we'd probably be in a better shape. One of the things we're going to do for marketing this year is that anybody applies, and actually in the application, we ask for the parent information. We ask for permission to contact the parent, because we're aware that if the parent wants their son or daughter to go and they're willing to pay for it, their son and daughter will want to go. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Europe and go to the best cities in Europe and, have a pretty upscale positive experience? So, that's the three decision makers.
And then in terms of the promotion channels, then I assume it's not the type of a business that would be advertised on TV or radio, right? You have to go much more focused. And you mentioned that you used Facebook and you used some other online advertisement. Can you tell us a little bit more? What channels are you using now to reach those?
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I did last year and what I'm planning on doing so far this year, but I really need advice and guidance and input. But last year, I spent about $20,000 with studyabroad.com, which is the largest study abroad referral website. And I paid per lead, and I was the #1 company on their study abroad. They do study abroad, internships abroad, and work abroad. And I was #1. You clicked on their site, they're the biggest one. And I came up first, and I bought tons of leads, spent $20,000. And of those $20,000 I spent, I might have gotten one student. I'm not even sure about that. And the reason is that they're not the greatest leads in the world. They click on the thing, they say they want information. And what happens is I have students that call from me, and if they don't get some positive reinforcement, if some of the students don't go, they become negative, and then it gets in their voice, and then nobody goes. GoAbroad.com is the second biggest study abroad referral website, and last year I spent $5,000 with them. Go Overseas is in the top 3 or 4. I spent like $3,000 or $4,000 with them. On Facebook, I spent about $5,000 on advertising, which is more targeted. I did direct mail to 200 different universities, the presidents of clubs and organizations, and I probably spent, neighbor to $2,000 to $3,000 with MailChimp. That's labor intensive, so I probably spent 2,000 or 3,000 hours and $2,000 or $3,000 doing that. This year, what we're planning on doing is doing 3-month advertising with studyabroad.com, not on the front page of their study abroad site, less visible, but we think we need to be there. And we need to be there because some of the study abroad officers, for your legitimacy, they'll go check studyabroad.com. So we need to be there. We can't be minimally there. We have to be there somewhere at least in the middle. So we're going to spend less money. We're going to do a lot more target advertising with Facebook. And we're going to also do target marketing with the emails, but we're only going to use schools starting out where we've had success before. And one of the reasons we're doing it is what I mentioned before. We want to keep the people that are making the calls for us, which are former students, positive, and we want them to have some success early on, because that's been a big problem for us, is closing the leads. I mean, right now from last year, I have 800 leads, And I had 8 students, and I've already told you a bunch of them were repeaters. So you can see that the leads haven't been that great for us.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so going back to the advertisement, if you would share with us with Facebook, what kind of, what do you call it, the audience parameters did you use to target the specific population? They allow you to choose like age and location and stuff like that. What did you use? I'm just curious, how did it work?
Okay, last year we did 18 to 26. And initially, we did the United States, Mexico, Canada, South American countries, and Middle Eastern countries. We then, at the end, I actually hired an advertising firm in Miami. That's where I live, and it was a bust. I paid them $5,000 for. I got nothing from them. But we targeted market from 18 to 26 at schools where we had students before, and the reason we're going to do that much more broadly this year, even though we didn't get any students, is we were much better received, and a lot of the students wanted to go. It was a much more positive experience. And because we can get the actual student that went to their school with us before to make the follow-up call, and they're all willing to do that, that's a huge thing for us. That's something that I think, you know, it's one of the ways we could separate ourselves from the bigger companies. So the other thing is the contacting the parents, as well as the student, writing them a personal letter, because we're a safe program. We're staying in cities that are relatively safe. We're staying in nice hotels in the center city, but all 3 of our professors are on site with the students, which if you think last year we had 9 students, we had 3 professors there with 9 students. So we're relatively safe program. And because we're a traveling program, we can change. Like, we won't go to any city with a travel advisory. So every deal we have in every city is subject to the fact that they're not under a travel advisory. And if anybody becomes under a travel advisory, we'll either stay in a city we're in a little longer, or we'll go to another city in close proximity. And so the students will be, which is, I'm a parent. My sons both graduated from college last semester, but I wouldn't want to send my son or daughter on a program that I didn't feel like was at least, chaperoned. And we do chaperone our program. We do allow freedom. Students are allowed to do what they want at night. We don't have curfews, but we want to know where everybody's in, and we have a buddy system. I think we have a lot of expertise at that, but I think we have to market to the parents next year. I think we have to target market more. And I think just the broad advertisements, the less focused advertisements, we have to focus on a time period to make them less costly.
Right. I would say that based on my reading of the reports from the last semester, when it comes to marketing, especially, the students have to be as detailed as possible. Many students, not only for this company, but in general, many students would often give very basic advice, like, for example, advertise more online or use more word of mouth. And so while it seems like a good method in general, this sort of advice is not actionable because it only identifies basically the channel. And so in order to be useful, it's very important that the students, and I recommend that you students spend enough time at working out the details. If you recommend, for example, let's say, I don't know, Facebook, then yes, tell who exactly would be targeted. Maybe even do some calculations as to how much it would cost. What audience should the company try to reach? Maybe even you can predict the approximate conversion rate. Same thing goes by, for example, let's say you would say, direct mail or word of mouth. Or maybe some sort of, use professional mailing lists and stuff like that. Well, identify those professional organizations, student clubs, a specific mailing list that could be used. Maybe even tell how frequently, what should be said in those messages. Should there be any compensation, or is there any fee for posting using those mailing lists? So all those details that the company owner has to deal with, you need to work out before you provide the feedback or the suggestion. So that will make your advice much more actionable. It will provide all the necessary little things that the company needs to plan for. And obviously, when you do that research, when you are trying to find out how to do it right, it's a good exercise for you. By simply saying advertise online, you haven't really learned anything. But once you try to work out all those details, that's when you will start understanding how this system actually works. I have tried advertising online for some other things I'm involved with, and I know that it's not that easy. I'll just give you a few examples. I remember that the difficulties I ran into. For example, we tried Facebook for advertising the sculpture competition for non-students. And so I would buy an audience, or, pay for showing the invitation to participate in the competition. I think I would choose like 10,000 people. And I would say, for example, these are the ages and these are the countries that I'm interested in, and so on and so on. And then for some reason, Facebook, so I would look at like the first 1,000 showings, and it just turns out that it's all male, all from Nigeria, all ages 18 to 19. And I have no idea why they do it, because, I chose like 25 countries. Why would it have to be so narrow? So after like the first 1,000 or so showings, I would change the demographics, and I would, for example, exclude Nigeria from the list altogether. And then boom, the next 1,000 are all from, for example, Sweden. And again, I have no idea how they, decide on this, but it almost seems like you have to be extremely specific what you want to target, because it almost seems like, they will stay within the contract. They will do what you asked, but they will give you the segment that is kind of the most available, the least desirable, so that they can still get your money without, bombarding people who are prime audience or target with the advertisement. So those are some of the things that I encountered, and I'm not sure, if there are any other pitfalls that can arise. But as I said, it's your job, or your advice would be valuable when you work out all those things before you share your report. And as I said, it would be a good experience for you too, because everybody hears about it, but nobody really has, or not many people have much experience with it. One more thing, Mike, that we do this semester that is a little different is in the marketing section, we also ask the students to prepare we call it a brochure, but it can also be an online post, or maybe even an online, shareable video. And so there, the idea is that the students will not really do professional design and graphics, but more will think about what would be the content, the message of, for example, a brochure, or maybe an online post and stuff like that. And so the idea there is that for the students, it would be more immediate. So one thing you just say, when you're, sales representatives, or when you post online, this is what, give them some information to share. And it's a whole different thing when they have to actually create that, shareable content. And so there will be some, as I said, input this time as to what a brochure or a booklet or a online post might look like. And so my hope is that something good will come out of this. And so a question that I have for you is, are you using anything like now? So I assume there are some online posts, obviously, that you use on Facebook. Yeah. Are there any, you mentioned direct mail, so I assume that would be like a letter, or is it more like a brochure?
Well, we have done newsletters and brochures. This is our brochure from last year. Which I think is a pretty nice brochure. We haven't done direct.
Possible to share it? Maybe students can look at it. Perhaps maybe even can, I don't know.
What I have is open to anybody. I'll share anything I have. I'll share you the brochures. I actually just wrote 5 newsletters that when we haven't started the campaign. I haven't even started the advertising yet because the delay in getting the website up. So I don't want to push somebody to the website that I know in the next 2 or 3 days is going to be completely changed. And so we do have brochures. We do newsletters. We do have little pieces. We have testimonials from former students. I mean, we try to do whatever's right. I know, and I should have actually mentioned this, one of the things a lot of the students, a lot of you out there will tell me to do is increase our SEO, our search engine optimization. And I spent a fortune on increasing search engine optimization last year and still never came up on the first 2 pages.
But that's the same thing. So I've had, some experience with SEO, and again, many people just know the abbreviation and know, improved search, optimization, and don't know how to do it. Some claim that they do know how to do it, but again, in reality, all they do is just, look at Google Analytics and try to come up with something. So again, if you students think it needs to be improved and you know how to do it, or you would like to give advice on how to do it, get into all the little tiny bit, details. What keywords should be used? Where should they go? What headlines? I don't know, whatever goes into search engine optimization. Maybe use blogs, maybe use this much text, maybe use, so there are so many different things that need to be done or could be done to improve it. And again, simply saying improve SEO, it's not actionable. Improve SEO by doing this, this, and this, and this, and like a bullet to-do list, or maybe do's and don'ts. That's when it becomes useful. So try to do that if you think you can help in that area. And some of you, I assume, may have some experience here.
And then the other thing I forgot to mention is last year and the year before, we went to a couple study abroad fairs, and we got lots of students that were interested. We've only had a conversion rate of 1 student. I mean, the rate is very low. The same thing is with the leads. I mean, if you think we had 700 leads last year, and we actually had 35 applicants last year. So we're doing something wrong. I mean, for sure, I could tell you we are the best program, but convincing people that, or having them have the follow through, we're doing a terrible job of that. I mean, we need help in that area for sure.
One thing I will say, both to Mike, but also to the students here. Voyager Study Abroad is a small company. It's a startup. It's been around only for a few years. And as you can see, it's still going through this initial, setup phase. And so some people said maybe we should focus more on inviting bigger, more established companies. And we do have 10 companies this semester. Of those, about 7 are fairly large, established, have been around for a long time. But the reason I like companies like Voyager Study Abroad, and we have a couple other startups this semester, is because by listening to the challenges that, for example, Mike just has described, and by trying to work them out, you will prepare yourself for your successful business experience and career much more than when you're trying to solve challenges for established companies. Because the type of the challenges that the CEOs of large companies deal with, I mean, for you, it's probably going to be another 10, 15, 20, 30, maybe years before you are in a position to deal with those things. And by that time, probably those challenges will be very different anyway. What Voyager Study Abroad deals with now, that's what you will deal with in the next year or two if you start your own business. And I assume many of you will be starting your own businesses, or at least I hope so. And so those will be precisely the same issues. How do you, find that balance between the cost and the, the expenses and the revenues? How do you advertise when you have a limited budget? How do you deal when you are like virtually on the brink of, kind of breaking even? And so this is the experience that may not be as glamorous as, for example, doing a challenge for Mercedes-Benz or Home Depot or some other bigger partners that we've had in the past and had this semester. But as I said, this would be much, much more educational and beneficial to you when you do the same thing, and hopefully you will do the same thing shortly after your graduation, or maybe while still in college. So that's a very valuable experience. Don't waste it.
Let me just interject something there. I actually am a managerial accounting professor, and I've done lots of consulting for big companies. And I thought this was going to be really easy, particularly since I worked for 2 other larger companies before I started doing it on my own. And it's surprising the kind of things that you don't expect that you end up being confronted with when you do start your own business. So there's a lot of things to learn as a startup. And for sure, I'm still in the learning process. Like, I thought I knew everything and I would go out and get paid tons of money to tell other people what to do. And it's pretty embarrassing because I obviously am having a difficult time doing it for myself. So it's
as they say, company owners sleep like babies. Wake up every 2 hours, cry, and then go back.
Pretty much. And if I ever do sleep, my wife will wake me up and remind me how badly I've done. So,
but that is the reason why it is fair that the company owners eventually, when they strike it big, make 100 or 500 times more than an average employee. Because it's easy to do a job when you get paid an hourly wage and you work from 8 till 5 and you don't care about what happens next. 5 p.m. boom, you are free and you don't care about the job until the next 8 a.m. A company owner, on the other hand, often risks his own money, time, invest tons of time. I mean, I don't know, I've read all those books, like 4-Hour Business Week and stuff like that. I don't know, to me it all sounds very, I mean, it may work that way if you own a small established business like a pizza place, or maybe like a dry cleaners. Maybe yes, in that case you can outsource most of the management and just check in from time to time to make sure that everything's fine. But if you're starting a new business, especially if it's something new, not one of those franchised, established things, oh man, it's like a 60-hour week just for that, and then obviously you have some other things to do. And but then, because you risk everything, you put everything you have on the table. In fact, sometimes maybe even your family. So if eventually it works, I do believe that these people deserve to become millionaires and maybe even billionaires. So why not? So if they deliver value to the society at the huge expense of their own time and money, I think that's fair. So anyway, one more set of questions, and those are related to the operating expenses. So the last block. So talking about prices, what is your current pricing strategy? Both, so we know the costs. So what would be then what is the current price that you charge? And then is that always a fixed one-time payment, or are there any other pricing models where either students can pay in different installments, or perhaps there is some option for, I don't know, like repeat customers, big customers, discounts, who knows?
Great question. Okay, so right now our pricing is $99.90 for 6 credit hours and $94.90 for 3 credit hours. When we launch the program, hopefully in the next couple of days, we're going to offer a $1,000 discount. So it would be $89.90 and $94.90. So what $94.90 and $79.90. I'm getting myself confused. It would be, it's a $1,000 discount, so it would be $89.90 and $84.90. 6 credits, $89.90. 3 credits, $84.90. There's a reason for that. I told you, just our variable cost of running our program is at least $7,500. That's not counting any of the fixed expenses, which are substantial. We're trying to get students to take the program. Initially, for sure, it has nothing to do with making money, and at $89.90 and $84.90, we need like 50 students to break even, and we already know we're not going to get there. So that's going to be the initial price, and then it will go back up to $99.90 and $89.90. Our cost
that includes basically everything during that 1 month.
It includes basically everything that 1 month. It includes all the lodgings, the Madrid residence for 30 days, the planes and trains between all the cities, all the activities, transportation to and from all the activities, breakfast every day, and lunch and dinner for 14 of the 30 days.
Does that include the tickets to Spain, or students?
No, because people are coming from different areas. Everybody has to pay their own transportation to Europe.
So if they are there, then that's basically all included.
Other than that, once you're there, everything's included. Although, of course, people want to go out at night, that's not included. I mean, you do have a lot of free time in each of the cities. It's important to have free time in each of the cities. Right. There's things that you'll want to do that we don't do, but we do a lot. In every city, we do at least a professional walking tour. We go to all the major landmarks. We do cultural activities, and we do the professional activities that are related to classes. We do lots of stuff, but there's stuff that the students will want to do on their own. Our cost structure is the major costs per student are the lodging, the planes and the trains, the transfers, the meals. That's our major cost per student. We do pay a small fee per student to the university in Madrid, but it's not that much. We do pay them also a flat fee, but we pay per student fee for transcripts and processing and preparation of the IDs and things like that. So that comes out to about $7,500. And then the other costs are the 2 professors, the transportation and lodging for the other 2 professors, the transportation and lodging for me, the fee to the university, and the advertising costs. And again,
so talking about finances, one more quick question related here. So the money goes into your account in the United States, and then you make all those payments using your own cards or checks while in Europe, or how does it, like, are there any losses in terms of moving money from the United States to the recipients in Europe. And
yeah, I mean, yes, and actually the bank fees. I just finished my income taxes for 2016. The bank fees actually turn out to be a lot because you have to do wire transfers back and forth to Europe. And of course, you're very dependent on what the conversion rate is, because everything that I'm doing with the student is in US dollars. And if the euro strengthens against the dollar, then, you know, I come out a little bit behind on that. But if it weakens, I do a little better if the euro weakens. Everything is, we have everything set up in of course, in a corporation. And we accept, you know, credit cards and everything, wire transfers and all that from the U.S. We pay all the fees. Actually, some of the programs make the student that's going on their program pay all the fees. But I try to do anything I can to minimize the, you know, the resistance and the unforeseen costs. I don't want to have anybody negative. I mean, I didn't even mention, but we give a whole package of materials and goodies to the students before the trip, and we do that as a surprise. We don't even tell them, but we send them a rolling duffel bag. We send them power converters for Europe. We send them luggage tags and keychains and 2 T-shirts. I mean, nobody else does that, but it's important to us that they have a great experience. All that's included. I figure the fixed costs are about $50,000. A couple times they've been $48,000. Once they were $52,000. I try to keep them about $50,000. This year, I'm actually hoping they're a little less because everybody's agreed to let me advertise for 3 or 4 months instead of advertising for 12 months, which means I could do more advertising, but in the time period that works better for the company. Basically, my wife, who makes way more money than me, I'm a poor professor. My wife, who's a very successful international banker, has been fronting me the money, and I'm still driving my 13-year-old car, and I'm going to continue driving my 13-year-old car, which will become my 14-year-old car until I can make this at least break even. I mean, I give up a lot to do it. And I mean, one of the things I should mention is, you know, yes, most people go into business to make $1 million or $1 billion. I actually went into this because I love it. I love bringing the students to Europe. I love the experience they have, which makes me a terrible business person. Even though if I was giving advice to other people with my expertise, I would tell them not to do like 80% of what I end up doing. But I want to know that when the students go home, that was the greatest experience they had in their lifetime. And in fact, I think it was not last week, but the week before, I got an email from a girl who went on the program 2 years ago, a young lady. And she went on a different study abroad program this past summer. And she wrote me an email and said that she went on another study abroad this summer, and she's sorry here she did because the best experience she ever had in her life was 2 years ago when she went on our program. To me, that's worth more than $1 million. I mean, honestly, that's to me what it's about. But I need to break even because of my wife, because it's not about that to her.
Makes perfect sense.
Expenses $50,000, variable expenses per student about $7,500. I'd like to be able to charge a net about $9,500, so my break-even point would be 25 students, which I think is a realistic number. But I have to reduce the price. I also will give internships, and in rare circumstances, if somebody really has significant financial need and they want to go, I've discounted it a little bit for them. Also, I try not to discount it below my actual variable cost if I can avoid it.
One more question. I remember last year you were offering very special deals to the ex-culture students themselves. So if any of them wanted to go on the...
Yeah, you know what? I knew you were going to ask me that. I forgot what I'm offering, but it's a pretty good deal, and I am offering that.
Like a very, very good deal. So if any of them actually wanted to go themselves, not only give you a business advice, but actually become a customer. I remember, I need to look up what it was last year, but I remember there were heavy discounts, opportunities.
It's a heavy discount, and I'll also, for any ex-culture student, I'll guarantee them an internship as well.
Right, I remember internship was a big deal, so it's a good experience and opportunity to not only see, but also do something overseas.
And the sooner they want to go, the better for me, because at some point, if I get critical mass, I'd like to raise the price. So I don't even mind initially charging what it costs me so that I know I can run a viable program, and then I'll increase the price for the next group to start covering my fixed costs. I want to make sure I tell everybody before they leave, the places we're going are Madrid, Lisbon, Pisa, where we spend a day and we just look at the Leaning Tower, Florence, which is amazing. We do a day trip to Venice. We spend time in Rome. From Madrid, which is our home base, we go to Toledo, which is an amazing historical city. We go to Segovia, which has the greatest Roman aqueducts you'll ever see, but those are day trips. Then we go to Paris. We do a day trip to Brussels. We spend a day in Amsterdam overnight. And then we go to Barcelona. We spend a few days there. So we end up going to Madrid, Lisbon, Florence, Rome, Paris, Amsterdam, and Barcelona, and day trips to Pisa, Venice, Toledo, Segovia, and Brussels.
Wow.
I don't think anybody else does that. I mean, and we have expertise in all those cities. We know the places to go and the things to do and the experience. And, you know, I get very excited about it, and I say it's the greatest program in the world. The other people need to say that for me, so I shouldn't really say it, but that's been the goal from the very beginning. And I think, you know, it's when we get there, the students see. I mean, last summer, the last day I decided that we were in Spain and we never did a flamenco show, and it just, you know, wasn't part of the program. It wasn't written on the itinerary, and I took all the students to a flamenco show. I mean, it's to make it the best it possibly can be, to make sure that anybody goes to any of the cities we go to, if anybody ever asks them, did you see this, did you see that, there's nobody who goes in our program that will ever go home and say no.
Right.
Did you see this site, did you do this thing? They have done it, every one of them, which is unheard of.
Yeah, and I imagine if somebody wanted to do it on their own, they probably wouldn't save any money because they still have to eat, they still have to stay at a hotel, they still have to pay for the transportation, but they would not have that infrastructure in place, all that support, all that program development in place. So you'll probably have to spend like a year just planning it, and it's not a fact that you'll have access to all the places where you go anyway.
You couldn't do it because we get into places and do things that you couldn't do. I mean, it's impossible. We have people to make presentations for us and, you know, put on, you know, 3 or 4 hour things that are impossible. Students will see things they'll never see before. If you went to the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona and you wanted to do that but do something else the same day, you couldn't because you would be in line for 3 or 4 hours before you got in the front door. If you go with us, you walk straight in. Right. You go to the Louvre in Paris, it's the same thing. You could wait for 2 or 3 hours to get in. We get straight in, so we can go to the Louvre in one day and also do another activity the same day. So there's things that you could do with us. Plus, I mean, it's quite remarkable to think that we're able to go to 12 different cities in a 30-day period and enjoy them and get to see everything there. It requires a lot of expertise that's been developed over the years. And before we go, I have to mention, I have a professor that's worked with me for 10 years, and Voss knows her. She's a marketing professor, and she's phenomenal with the students, and she has lots of expertise. And the other professor is a Spanish professor from the university we work at in Madrid, and he's worked with us for the last couple of years, and he's amazing. He's finishing up, he's called all but dissertation. He's finishing up his PhD in European art and European history. He's getting 2 PhDs. And he's marvelous because he knows everything about every place we go. And he's super student oriented, and he loves to talk to the students. And I mean, both of them are amazing. And then I actually do have a marketing person that works for us in Madrid. She works only 10 hours per week, but she's great. She's a graphic designer, and she does a lot of the other stuff. And she actually does a lot of stuff because she loves the program. And then when we're there, she's in marketing in Madrid, and she works with a lot of the clubs in Madrid. So she gets the students all kinds of specials and deals. Not last year, but the year before, she got them into Real Madrid's private party, which was a huge thing for the students. So, I mean, we do things that nobody could possibly do and no other program would do because, I mean, to be honest with you, most people are, you know, they run a business and they want to make as much money as they can. And a lot of the things I do are stupid. I mean, keeping the residents in Madrid for the entire 30 days from a financial standpoint is stupid. I know better than that. But I want to make sure the students have the best time. And that's the best way to run a multiple country program, is to not have everybody have to carry everything with them everywhere they go. It doesn't make sense. So.
Well, so we are almost out of time. The only thing that I would like to add is that out of the many partners we've had over these years, Voyager Study Abroad and Mike Tyler in particular are the fastest ones to respond to any email questions we receive. So sometimes with some companies, it literally may be 2-3 days before you get a reply to your question. With Mike, usually we get it within hours. So
2 or 3 minutes.
Within minutes in many cases, true. If there are any other questions left that we didn't touch upon in this webinar, or if you have some new questions later on as you start working on the challenge, email us. And with Mike, he's an unusual one in the sense that he doesn't mind his own email to be shared. So I guess what we'll do, we'll still stick with the standard approach where you email admin@xculture.org. And then if it's something bigger, we will put you directly in touch with the company. Most companies don't want their emails to be shared directly because we do receive dozens, sometimes even hundreds of questions, and many of them are repetitive. And so what happens is that the company, the CEO, has to respond to the same question over and over and over again. And it's just not efficient. So what we do is we create a database of frequently asked questions, and my assistant manages them. So if it's the same repetitive question, which always happens, he would just copy and paste the answer from the catalog. But if it's a new question, one that we never saw, then we forward it to the company. Mike seems to be generous enough to actually be willing to communicate with you directly, which is great. And so if you have any other questions, as I said, email admin@xculture.org. And if it's something that requires you to be in touch directly with the company, we'll gladly share his contacts, which we normally wouldn't do for other companies. So you're in good hands, at least as far as support. And it's a big deal, especially when you get into the last weeks of the project, when you have a lot of questions, trying to finish up everything quickly. That's when it's very important to be able to talk to the company quickly. So.
And I'm going to email you last year's brochure so that you can post it. We haven't updated the brochure yet, but I'll send you the one from.
Yes. So yeah, if you can send us any materials you have, as I said, at the very least, maybe the students can, I don't want to use the word critique, but maybe comment. Maybe there are some things that they see could be improved. And then also, if they want to develop their own stuff, at least they will see what you already have and can build upon it, as opposed to start from scratch. So, so if any materials, brochure, website, any other handouts or ads from Facebook can be shared, I think it would help them to develop an even better version using the input that we already have.
Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you. I really appreciate it. I need all the help I can get.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank
all right.